Here is a little challenge for you. Do you know the name of any iceberg? I see you scratching your head and asking, do icebergs have names? Icebergs are more interesting than you can imagine. That is why, in this iceberg video about icebergs, the perfect pun, you will learn the stories of icebergs can be much cooler than being a chunk of floating ice. Let's dive into the cold world of icebergs. B-15 is the name of the most famous iceberg in recorded history. The birth of this cool chunk of ice took place in the frosty realm of Antarctica, when an icy behemoth emerged from the Ross Ice Shelf. B-15 was a colossal mass of frozen majesty that once ruled the southern seas. With a surface area stretching over 11,000 square kilometers, or 4,200 square miles, this frozen giant could easily overshadow the island of Jamaica. Picture this. An ice titan, half a mile thick, breaking free from the hold of the ice shelf. It's not just an iceberg, it's a glacial superstar. This was the world's largest free-floating object, drifting with an icy air of grandeur until it found itself grounded off Cape Adare in Victoria Land. The grand finale, in October of 2005, saw B-15A shattering into smaller yet no less fascinating pieces. It was an epic drama played out on the frigid stage of the Antarctic seas. But the saga doesn't end there. B-15 wasn't just a passive participant in the chilly narrative, it had ecological importance. Its colossal presence caused a ripple effect, impacting the delicate balance of Antarctic marine life. From phytoplankton struggling for space to penguins facing food chain disruptions. In a clash of frozen titans, B-15 collided with the Drygalski Ice Tongue, a mammoth 70-kilometer or 43-mile extension of the David Glacier. The result? The tip of the ice tongue broke apart. Supply ships to McMurdo Station and Scott Base faced a frosty blockade, pushing researchers into a world of airdrops and rationing. It's a survival story on the icy frontier. Fast forward to the present, and some parts of B-15 still hang close to the Antarctic coast in the Amory region. A frozen relic, a reminder of nature's power and unpredictability. There's no better way to start this iceberg video than with B-15, because this single iceberg created a lot of other iconic icebergs, as you're about to see later in this video. Icebergs form when pieces of ice break off from glaciers or ice shelves and float in the ocean. This process is called calving, and it's influenced by such factors as temperature, wind, waves, tides, and gravity. Icebergs can be irregularly shaped or tabular depending on the source of the ice. The age of an iceberg depends on how long it takes the ice to form, flow, and break off the glacier or ice shelf. The oldest glacier ice in Antarctica may be up to 1 million years old, while the oldest in Greenland may be more than 100,000 years old. The oldest Alaskan glacier ice ever recorded was about 30,000 years old. Once an iceberg is in the ocean, it can last for several years or decades, depending on the size, shape, and climate conditions. Scientists estimate the lifespan of an iceberg from the first snowfall on a glacier to the final melting in the ocean to be as long as 3,000 years. A38. In the vast icy realm of Antarctica, a colossal spectacle unfolded in October of 1998, the birth of iceberg A38. This iceberg was a behemoth measuring 150 kilometers by 50 kilometers, or 93 miles by 30 miles. This iceberg was created when it broke off from the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf. Hold on to your thermometers. We're about to delve into the frosty escapades of this glacial giant. Hitching a ride on iceberg A38 was none other than the Filchner Station, a German research haven. Imagine the logistical challenges of salvaging an entire research station left adrift on this icy colossus. It's a frosty drama, blending science and survival against the stark backdrop of Antarctica. But there was a dramatic twist that followed the birth of this iceberg. Soon after the iceberg made its grand entrance, it split into two parts in 2003. These two pieces were named A38A and A38B. In January 2004, these two icebergs will enter the records of history again when they caught the attention of astronauts on the International Space Station. Pictures of A38A and A38B were taken from the ISS close up near South Georgia Island. Now hold on to your iceberg-loving horses, because the plot thickens. In March 2004, A38A decided to go solo, breaking up into three pieces: A38C, A38D, and A38E. Meanwhile, A38B, not to be outdone, split into A38F and A38G in April 2004. It's a chilly breakup story with more fragments than a frosty jigsaw puzzle. But alas, not all tales end on a frozen high note. A somber note struck the wildlife of South Georgia Island as Iceberg A38 and its fragments disrupted the foraging routes of seals and penguins. The consequence? The young ones faced an icy demise, a tragic consequence of this frozen intrusion into their habitat. As the curtain fell on this icy saga, the once mighty Iceberg A38 and its fragments gracefully bowed out. By 2005, they had melted away, leaving behind a chilly legacy etched into the Antarctic annals. Icebergs can hold various things, such as rocks, sediments, algae, and air bubbles. These can affect the appearance and density of the icebergs. Some icebergs may also contain fossils of ancient organisms that lived on the ice sheets or the ocean. For example, in 2016, researchers found a fossilized marine reptile called a plesiosaur in an iceberg near Antarctica. B15A. In the super cold land of Antarctica, there's this giant iceberg named B15A, and it loves having big, dramatic showdowns. It's like the heavyweight champions of the icebergs, and in 2005, it went up against the Aviator Glacier's ice tongue. Imagine Godzilla vs. King Kong, but with a lot more frostbite. The whole showdown event was captured by the Envisat Advanced Synthetic Aperture Radar, or ASAR, our high-tech eyes in the Antarctic sky that tracks the icebergs in the region from space. On May 16, 2005, ASAR took a cool picture in its wide swath mode. The resolution of the camera, which is 150 meters and a 400-kilometer view, ensured that everything was captured in great resolution. B15A is one of the children icebergs of the almighty B15, which we first talked about in this video, and it was the biggest child, measuring over 2,000 square miles. This frozen giant was 115 kilometers long and is bigger than your favorite national park. It's a worthy legacy of the mighty B15 iceberg, born in March of 2000. Here's the twist. B15A caused some trouble. Blocking ocean currents messed with penguins and messed up supply routes. Imagine a giant game of dominoes in Antarctica, with penguins in the middle. This massive iceberg, a natural wonder of epic size, fascinated scientists and the public alike. Satellites and radar images kept a close watch on its frozen adventures, turning it into a spectacular sight visible from space. Its enchantment even inspired a beautiful musical piece by New Zealand composer Chris Curry Brown, capturing the icy rhythms of this glacial giant. The word iceberg comes from the Dutch word Iceberg, which literally means ice mountain. It's a partial loan translation of the Dutch word, which combines ice and berg. The word was first used in English in 1774 to describe a glacier seen from a distance, and later in 1820 to describe a floating piece of ice in the sea. A68. To learn of this iceberg, we need to move to the super cold part of Antarctica on the Larsen C ice shelf. In July of 2017, this enormous iceberg known as A68 was born. Imagine a massive block of ice the size of a flat table breaking off to cover an incredible 5,800 square kilometers, about 2,000 square miles, which is the equivalent to the entire country of Luxembourg. Now that is one huge ice table. But this wasn't just a one-time thing. A68 went on a big 3.5-year journey, floating north like a huge tourist on a sea vacation. While it cruised along, the iceberg played a game of breaking apart, turning into smaller pieces. Imagine nature taking apart a giant ice puzzle. Satellites and careful scientists acted like detectives, keeping a close watch on everything A68 did. Why? Because this floating mass had a big effect on the water around it. Picture this ice giant acting like a bartender, pouring more than 1.5 billion tons of fresh water into the ocean every day when it was melting a lot. As A68 moved through the ocean, it wasn't just making a big splash, it was changing local currents and salt levels, like a cosmic bartender shaking things up in Earth's big cocktail mixer. The result? Changes in the environment that had researchers amazed and worried. A68 didn't just stop at changing the ocean's drink, it decided to sprinkle some natural confetti, releasing iron, minerals, and natural stuff into the water. A big feast for sea life. As the iceberg got closer to South Georgia Island, home to lots of penguins, seals, and whales, it worried environmentalists. The icy intruder could mess up the food routes of these animals. Now, fast forward to April 2021, and A68 disappeared like magic, leaving no big pieces behind. Poof, A68 was no more. One of the most famous iceberg stories is the sinking of the Titanic, a large British ocean liner that was on its way to New York City in 1912. The Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean on the night of April 14, 1912, and sank in less than 3 hours. More than 1,500 people died in the disaster, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The iceberg that sank the Titanic was estimated to be about 100 feet tall and 400 feet long. It had a jagged underwater spur that tore a 300-foot gash in the ship's hull. The iceberg was probably calved from a glacier in Greenland and drifted southward with the ocean currents. C-19. In May 2002, a massive iceberg named C-19 was born from the Ross Ice Shelf, making it the second largest iceberg in recent years, just after its predecessor B-15. Picture a giant block of ice with an area of about 5,500 square kilometers or 2,100 square miles. That's even bigger than Delaware. As this giant iceberg started floating around, it had a big impact on the environment and animals along the Antarctic coast. Like a clumsy puzzle piece, C-19 messed up the usual flow of ocean currents, causing strange levels of sea ice and less phytoplankton production. In a surprising twist, it bumped into the big Drygalski ice tongue in January 2005, breaking off a piece of it. Then, in September 2005, C-19 decided to split into two parts, C-19A and B. C-19A went north and said goodbye to the Antarctic waters by March 2006. On the other hand, C-19B stayed near Victoria Land, doing a slow dance with the elements until it melted away. In a funny move, a schoolboy renamed C-19A to Melting Bob in 2008 during a contest sponsored by the Hay Festival and the Scott Polar Research Institute. Now, some icebergs are flat and some are not because of the way they break off from glaciers or ice shelves. Icebergs that break off from large flat ice shelves tend to have smooth rectangular shapes. These are called tabular icebergs. Icebergs that break off from irregular, jagged glaciers tend to have a more varied and complex shapes. These are called non-tabular icebergs. The shape of an iceberg also depends on how it interacts with the water, the wind, and other icebergs. As an iceberg melts, it can change its shape and even flip over. Icebergs come in different sizes, from small bergy bits and growlers to huge ice islands. Only about 10% of an iceberg is visible above the water, while the rest is hidden below the surface. One area with a lot of icebergs is the Iceberg Alley in the North Atlantic. This area is very dangerous for ships. I believe Tier 1 was pretty chill, but let us turn it down a bit and get into some more interesting icebergs in the next level. We're starting with the iceberg named A23A. In the super cold waters of Antarctica, there's this massive iceberg called A23A, and it's like a giant floating island made of ice. It's way bigger than Greater London, covering an area of around 3,900 square kilometers or 1,500 square miles. And it started its journey in 1986 when it broke off from the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf. For almost 40 years, this colossal ice chunk stayed put. But in 2020, it decided to go on an adventure when the winds and the currents nudged it. That's when our hero, the RRS Sir David Attenborough, a fancy polar research ship, met A23A in December of 2023. They did a scientific dance around the iceberg, collecting water samples and discovering cool secrets hidden in the ice. Now here's a fun fact. When A23A first floated into the world, it had a Soviet research station on it called Druzhnaya 1. Imagine scientists in big coats, struggling with icy winds, trying to get their stuff as the giant ice island decided to break free. Talk about a surprise polar expedition. But wait, there's more. Picture an iceberg as tall as the London Shard, which is Europe's tallest skyscraper, but made of ice and about 400 meters thick. Yep, A23A is like an icy skyscraper, not just a regular ice cube. A23A is on a mission, sailing towards the South Atlantic Ocean through a tricky place called Iceberg Alley, where big icebergs like A23A meet up, creating a frozen spectacle. And just when you think A23A is the undisputed iceberg champion, along comes A76, a new ice celebrity that's even bigger. But hold the cheers, A76 is like a shooting star, shining bright but not for long. It's expected to break apart soon, leaving A23A as the heavyweight champ. As A23A keeps cruising, melting, and becoming a part of the Antarctic history, we can't help but wonder about the secrets it's hiding. What mysteries will be revealed as it releases mineral dust into the ocean? B9. In 1987, a huge iceberg called B9 broke away from the Ross Ice Shelf. This event marked the beginning of B9's life as an independent iceberg. At this stage, you'll notice that the Ross Ice Shelf has given us a lot of iconic icebergs. Picture this massive chunk of ice. It's about 150 kilometers long and 35 kilometers wide. It's like having an iceberg as big as the entire state of Connecticut, making it a giant in icy waters. Now, B9 isn't just big, it's also one of the longest icebergs ever seen. Imagine it cruising through the polar seas like an ancient colossus. This iceberg is a real powerhouse, covering an enormous area of 5,390 square kilometers. But wait, there's more cool stuff about B9 that we're about to dive into. Now, imagine a frosty adventure. B9 went on an exciting journey, floating with the currents for an impressive 22 months, covering a whopping 2,000 kilometers or 1,200 miles at an average speed of 1.5 miles per day. It wasn't just floating around. In August of 1988, B9 collided with the Ross Ice Shelf, leaving a frozen mark before spiraling into a 62-mile circle, showing off its frosty moves. But the story doesn't end there. In a surprising turn of events in August of 1989, the majestic iceberg broke into 3 pieces, giving birth to B9A, B, and C. These frozen siblings had their own icy adventures. B9A took an eastern detour, passing by South Georgia Island in December of 2003, adding some frosty glamour to its journey. Meanwhile, B9B decided to hang out next to the Mertz Glacier for 18 years, before getting into a glacial showdown in February of 2010. Wait, there's more! B9B then twirled into Commonwealth Bay, acting like an icy gatekeeper in December 2011, blocking access to Mawson's Huts, a historic site of Antarctic exploration. It's like B9 wanted to add a frosty cliffhanger to its icy tale, leaving us wondering what chilly adventures it might have next. The next iceberg is A75. A75 is the biggest iceberg ever seen in the Weddell Sea. It's enormous, covering an area of about 4,320 square kilometers or 1,668 square miles. That's almost as big as the state of Connecticut. This huge iceberg broke off from the Larsen F ice shelf in Antarctica in 2021, and it's been floating around the Weddell Sea ever since. Scientists find it super interesting and are using it to learn more about climate change and how it affects Antarctica. Now let's get into the frosty story. Imagine this. The discovery of A75 was first revealed by the sharp-eyed Yusnik ice analyst William Walter, and his discovery was confirmed by the ice expert Christopher Redinger, who solved the mystery using a Sentinel-1A image. But the drama doesn't end there. Our iceberg gets its name from where it was first seen. With its massive dimensions, the Yusnik officially designated it as A75. So while satellites initially detected the calving event, it was through combined analysis and data from multiple sources that the full picture of A75's size and significance was revealed. On October 30th, 2021, the U.S. National Ice Center, or USNIC, officially designated it as A75. So while satellites initially detected the calving event, it was through combined analysis and data from multiple sources that the full picture of A75's size and significance was revealed. On October 30th, 2021, the U.S. National Ice Center, USNIC, analyzed data from the Copernicus Sentinel-1 satellite and confirmed the iceberg's colossal size of 4,320 square kilometers. A75 has attracted several whale species, including humpback and fin whales, possibly due to the abundance of krill around the iceberg. This interaction between the iceberg and marine life provides valuable insights into the ecosystem dynamics of the region. This iceberg is a scientific research platform where oceanographic data collection is being done. Data such as ocean currents, temperature, and salinity are valuable data that it's providing us. This data is crucial for improving climate models and understanding the impact of icebergs on the ocean environment. But here's the surprising part that'll melt your curiosity. The A-75 Heartbreaker isn't just making a quick appearance. No. It's sailing on a journey northward, an adventure that will end in the warm South Atlantic Ocean. Imagine the dramatic music. Picture the big finale. The iceberg's grand exit through the melting waters. Moving on to Iceberg D28, which is also known as the Molar Berg. Why? Because it looks like a giant tooth, and where it broke off, the Amory ice shelf is jokingly called the loose tooth. Nature threw in a bit of dental humor there. Picture a gigantic block of ice like a frozen giant, 95 miles long and 22 miles wide, way bigger than the city of Los Angeles. It came from the Amory ice shelf in Antarctica in September 2019, which was a big deal because it was the biggest breakoff from there since 1963-64. Now here's some interesting facts about our icy friend D28. Firstly, it didn't just break off, it took something with it. Little America 5, a former US research station, got caught up in its icy departure. Stuck off the Kemp Coast in East Antarctica from August to September 2020, D28 uncovered secrets beneath the surface. As it stood there, it revealed a maze of undersea landscapes, challenging what we thought we knew about the ocean floor. Mother Nature keeps surprising geographers. Let's talk about D28's journey. It's not just a sitting iceberg, it's a wanderer carried by the wind and the ocean currents. The icy nomad is set to drift north, slowly moving toward the warmth of the South Atlantic Ocean, where it'll eventually melt away. Interestingly, it's made up of freshwater ice that is over 100,000 years old. The sheer size and movement of D28 can disrupt the existing habitat and food sources for marine life. As it drifts, it can scour the seafloor, damaging benthic communities and displacing organisms that rely on the seabed for survival. A couple was caught camping atop an iceberg in Canada in April of 2021. They set up a tent on a small iceberg that was floating in a lake near the town of Portage-la-Prairie. They were rescued by the local fire department, who warned them of the dangers of iceberg camping. From here, we move to some more interesting icebergs on the next level. A81. Say hello to the gigantic superstar of the icy world, Iceberg A81. This frozen marvel made its big entrance in January 2023, when it gracefully floated away from the Brunt ice shelf in Antarctica. Let's explore the frosty facts and unravel the icy mysteries. Get ready, because we're dealing with a massive chunk, covering an area of 1,550 square kilometers or 600 square miles. It's like having an ice kingdom twice the size of New York City. Imagine that! Our iceberg celebrity was first spotted by sharp-eyed experts at the British Antarctic Survey, known as the BAS for short, on January 22, 2023, and later confirmed by the cool team at the U.S. National Ice Center, or USNIC, using their fancy satellite gadgets. The iceberg's big break happened right near the British-operated Halley Research Station, just 12 miles away from where it said goodbye to the ice shelf. Talk about a front-row seat to a nature show! The Halley Research Station had to move twice recently because of the cracks in the ice shelf. It's like a real-life dance battle between the station and the ice. Now let's dive into the iceberg's backstory. Our frozen maestro, Iceberg A81, was born from the famous Chasm 1 crack, which woke up in 2012. The British Antarctic Survey acted like detectives, closely watching this crack. Fast forward to 2023, and the crack widened faster than an ice cream parlor on a hot day, reaching a massive 120 feet before the big event. As of March 31st, 2023, our iceberg sensation has been moving about the sea at 76 degrees 48 minutes south and 33 degrees 41 minutes west, showing off a length of 28 nautical miles and a width of 25 nautical miles. It's quite a walk along the coastline, covering about 90 miles since its birth. But here's the twist. This ice island isn't planning to settle down. It's expected to drift even farther away from the ice shelf, possibly breaking into smaller rebellious ice pieces. The next entry is the magnificent A74. Iceberg A74 is 1,270 square kilometers, which is like 490 square miles. To put it into perspective, it could easily gobble up the whole city of Houston. This icy giant made its debut in February of 2021 when it bid farewell to the Brunt ice shelf in Antarctica and became a free agent. The story of this icy behemoth began with a crack that played the lead role in the breakup of the ice shelf. Things got interesting in September of 2019 when the crack first appeared. Then, in summer 2020-2021, just like a thrilling story, it escalated dramatically. The British Antarctic Survey, or BAS, closely watched this icy spectacle using trusty GPS gadgets. Now here's the twist. The iceberg didn't just drift away unnoticed, it gave the German research vessel Polarstern a chance to take a trip around it in March 2021. They collected samples and snapshots of the seafloor, revealing a fascinating world of life beneath the icy depths. Iceberg A74 is expected to move even further from its icy birthplace, gradually breaking into smaller, unpredictable pieces. And for those who love iceberg stories, A74, impressive as it is, doesn't quite beat the record for the largest breakup from the Brunt ice shelf. That honor goes to the Grand Iceberg B15, which was the first iceberg mentioned in this video. The fate of A74 remains uncertain. It'll keep melting and breaking apart over time until it disappears completely. B31. Imagine a massive frosty jewel shining in the vast Southern Ocean. It's not a gem, but Iceberg B31, a large block of frozen freshwater, a product of Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier. This behemoth, born on November of 2013, decided to break free and embark on a journey across the Southern Ocean. Its icy expanse, covering a staggering 1,900 square kilometers, rivals the size of Rhode Island. This frozen wanderer didn't just leisurely wander away, it posed a potential challenge to international shipping in Antarctic waters. Picture a massive iceberg unexpectedly photobombing ships. Not your typical nautical encounter, you'll agree. Tracking this icy behemoth during the winter darkness is similar to playing hide-and-seek with Mother Nature. Our iceberg made its debut on NASA's Terra and Aqua satellites, capturing the dramatic crack in the Pine Island Glacier, setting the stage for B-31's grand entrance. Standing tall at around 1,500 feet, most of this frozen marvel remains hidden beneath the surface. As you know, about 90% of an iceberg size is hidden underwater. To grasp how big this iceberg is, Iceberg B31 holds about 277 cubic kilometers of ice, enough to fill Lake Erie not once, but twice. This iceberg is no sluggard. It cruises at an average of 0.4 kilometers per hour, leaving its slower counterparts in the icy dust. Get ready for the long haul. Scientists predict it'll take several years for Iceberg B31 to gracefully bow out, melting away as it rides the currents and braves the temperatures. But wait, there's more. Iceberg B31 isn't a solo act. It has a cool sibling, B46, which also bid adieu to the Pine Island Glacier in 2018, adding to the frozen family drama. The International Ice Patrol, IIP, is an organization that monitors and reports the presence and movement of icebergs in the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. It was established in 1914 after the sinking of the RMS Titanic, which collided with an iceberg and resulted in the loss of more than 1,500 lives. The IIP is operated by the United States Coast Guard but is funded by 17 nations that have shipping interests in the North Atlantic. The IIP's mission is to eliminate the risk of iceberg collision and provide relevant iceberg warning products to the maritime community. We move to stage 4 from here. The icebergs here are a bit dodgy, as you'll see. D16. In the big icy world down south, there's this big piece of ice called Iceberg D16. A gigantic chunk of ice, as big as a whole city, broke away from the strong grip of the Fimbul ice shelf in Antarctica in March 2006. It's not just any iceberg, it's a frozen giant that covers about 310 square kilometers and stands at 500 meters or 1,600 feet tall, with about 1,470 feet hiding beneath the surface playing hide and freeze. The National Ice Center, using satellite technology from the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, was able to capture the birth of this massive ice chunk. Hold on to your mittens, because this iceberg was on a one-way journey to the eastern Weddell Sea, ready to shake things up in the deep blue, a true disruptor of the ocean. D16 isn't just your ordinary iceberg, it's a famous figure in the frozen world. Among its chilly achievements, it proudly holds the title of being one of the biggest icebergs to say goodbye to the Fimbul Ice Shelf, a heavyweight among Antarctic ice shelves. Picture a series of exciting events between 2000 and 2009, leading to a cool 14% reduction in the Fimbul Ice Shelf space. It's like nature's big show, directed by the icy maestro. Scientists, dressed in their polar explorer gear, kept a close watch on this glacial rock star. Satellites, aircraft, and buoys formed a team, collecting data to understand every move of D16, following its slow dance through the seas, and uncovering its frozen mysteries. It was a cool diva playing a role in the big environmental drama. Scientists had initially predicted that D16 would stick around for years, but nature had its own plan, and this huge iceberg gracefully broke into smaller pieces, melting away into the vastness. It was the final act for the iceberg named after the humble D and the distinguished 16, following the naming tradition of the Antarctic icebergs, a fitting end to its icy adventure. Petermann Ice Island. Finally, we've got an iceberg on this list with a name that's more than just a jumble of letters and numbers. The birth of the Petermann Ice Island in 2010 was a huge event in the bitterly cold land of Greenland. But don't imagine a sunny paradise, because this island was no sandy getaway. It was a huge iceberg, bravely breaking free from the grip of the Petermann Glacier, covered in a chilly coat of ice that measured a whopping 260 square kilometers and standing tall at 200 meters thick. Now, think about this enormous frozen giant heading south along Canada's coast, its icy parts breaking into smaller pieces. Some of these icy bits went as far as Newfoundland and Labrador, playing a frosty game of hide-and-seek with unsuspecting ships and oil platforms. Fortunately, they have not led to any Titanic-like event. But this iceberg's adventures weren't just for fun. No, it was the star of the show in the climate change circus, revealing the dramatic effects on the Arctic ice sheet. Scientists, armed with satellites, planes, and ships, played the role of the watchful paparazzi, capturing every move and meltdown. As the iceberg melted, scientists dove into the detailed steps of its impact on ocean circulation, marine life, and coastal communities. As the Petermann Glacier continued its icy performance, giving birth to smaller icebergs like a prolific composer, 2012 brought another big production, a 130 square kilometer masterpiece breaking free. The show, it seemed, had no brakes. B-44. In September of 2017, a massive iceberg named B-44 emerged from the Pine Island Glacier in Antarctica. This colossal ice chunk was an astounding 28 kilometers long and 9 kilometers wide, covering an impressive 185 square kilometers, even larger than the city of Paris. This event was significant because B-44 wasn't just any iceberg drifting in the vast Southern Ocean. It originated from the Pine Island Glacier, a crucial player in the global sea level rise. This enormous glacier has been losing ice at an increasingly rapid pace in recent decades, and the birth of B-44 served as a stark reminder of the ongoing transformations affecting Earth's polar regions. As B-44 went on its cold adventure, scientists dive into the effects of its journey. How did it affect the climate, change the ocean's mood, and impact the sea life below? The answers were hidden in the frozen performance of B-44's movements. Every crack, every melt had secrets that could uncover the mysteries of our changing planet. But B-44's story took an unexpected turn. Unlike other icebergs that embark on lengthy journeys across the ocean, B-44's existence was tragically short-lived. Within just a few months, it fractured and disintegrated. This rapid demise, documented by satellites, highlighted the fragility of even the largest ice formations in the face of a warming planet. What messages did B-44 share with the wind as it melted into the southern waters? B-17B. In the year 2000, a huge iceberg named B-17 broke away from its large parent B-17. This massive piece of ice was gigantic, covering an area of 140 square kilometers and towering with a thickness of 200 meters. As this enormous iceberg moved north, it faced challenges from the open sea. Along its icy journey, B-17B went through a remarkable change, breaking into many smaller icebergs. People watching from the south saw this extraordinary event as the massive iceberg gracefully broke apart, leaving a trail of frozen pieces sparkling under the sun in the southern hemisphere. But amidst this breathtaking beauty of this icy spectacle, a serious problem arose. The smaller icebergs created by B-17B became a potential danger for ships in the area. Australian authorities had to warn vessels traveling through these icy waters about the icy threat. It was crucial to take precautions to ensure safe passage through these frozen waters. However, challenges often spark curiosity, and B-17B became a unique attraction. Tourists, scientists, and the media came to witness the journey of this frozen giant, capturing the beauty of nature in a captivating show. The Southern Ocean became a stage, and B-17B was the star of an icy performance that held both danger and beauty. As the story of B-17B unfolds, it leaves us with a frozen cliffhanger, a reminder that even in the vast ocean, nature can create stories that capture our imagination. Now we move to the darker Tier 5. B-15J. The big iceberg B-15J comes from the huge iceberg B-15. Remember that one? The biggest iceberg in history, which used to be on the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica. It got our attention when it started its cold journey. B-15J broke off in March 2000 and became a significant piece of ice, creating its own story in the history of icebergs. By November 2011, this icy giant was an impressive 20 miles long, showing how amazing nature can be. Floating gracefully in the southern Pacific Ocean, about 1,000 miles southeast of beautiful New Zealand, B-15J turned into a wandering sculpture of frozen beauty, making its way through the large open waters. But the icy adventure didn't stop there. In November and December of 2011, the winter giant started breaking into smaller pieces, like a mesmerizing dance with warm ocean currents and strong winds. In the middle of this icy show, a brave group of scientists took charge. They used modern tools like satellites, airplanes, and ships to keep an eye on everything B-15J was doing, from moving to melting. Their scientific tools focused not only on the iceberg, but also on how it affected the climate, the ocean, and the dance of marine life. This icy trip turned into an interesting scientific adventure, uncovering the secrets hidden in the frozen heart of B-15J. B-31A. A big block of ice named B-31A broke off from the Pine Island Glacier in Antarctica in November 2013. It was really huge, about 21.7 miles long and 12.4 miles wide, covering an area of 270.3 square miles. While it's not one of the biggest of all time, it is still one of the biggest icebergs in recent times. Satellites and scientists kept a close eye on this iceberg as it floated in the Southern Ocean. Why? Because it could give us hints about how stable the Pine Island Glacier is. This glacier melts super fast, and it's a big deal for the rise in global sea levels. Besides being interesting to scientists, this iceberg could be a problem for ships and sea life. Imagine it bumping into other icebergs or islands and breaking into smaller pieces. In 2015, it actually split into two big parts, B-31A and B-31B, after squeezing through a tight spot between Burke Island and the Thwaites Ice Tongue. The last we heard about B-31A was in January 2018 near the South Sandwich Islands, which are a British overseas territory. B-31B's location has been a mystery since 2016 because satellites lost track of it. Iceberg B-31A was like a superstar in nature, grabbing the world's attention for a few years. It silently witnessed the changes happening in Antarctica and showed us the impacts of climate change on our planet. B-15K. Iceberg B-15K is another piece that broke off from the colossal iceberg B-15. Well, not exactly. It is more like a grandchild of the legendary B-15. It was a product of one of the children of the B-15 iceberg. In a chilly twist of fate, Iceberg B-15K decided to go solo, breaking away from the main body of B-15A in December of 2003. Spanning about 115 square miles at its birth, This icy wanderer embarked on a northward journey, navigating the waters with an unpredictable grace. As it moved into warmer territories, the once mighty B-15K couldn't escape the gradual effects of melting, transforming it into a mosaic of smaller, scattered ice pieces. Fast forward to 2018, and the final curtain call for B-15K unfolded between the Falkland Islands and South Georgia Island. It shared this icy stage with other remnants of B-15, providing a last glimpse of its glacial grandeur. While Iceberg B-15K played its part in the natural ballet of ice shelf calving, its impact reached beyond the frozen spectacle. Nature's delicate balance felt the repercussions, as the reduced area suitable for phytoplankton growth triggered a 40% decline in these microscopic creatures. The repercussions rippled through the food chain, affecting everything from krill to penguins. But that wasn't all. The activities of B-15K altered ocean currents, tweaked salinity, and quite possibly held sway over the weather patterns in its frosty domain. A38B was born from its colossal parent A38, which emerged from the icy clutches of the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf in Antarctica in October 1998. Picture this giant chunk of ice, about 47 miles long, 23 miles wide, spreading across around 1,072 square miles, breaking free from A38A in December 2003. It's a frozen tale of majesty that sparks the imagination. This icy wanderer started moving north along the Antarctic Peninsula, reaching the tip of South Georgia Island by December 2003. Envision this colossal ice giant, a stubborn guest, grounding itself in the shallow waters near the island, disrupting the usual paths of seals and penguins. The consequences were serious. Some of their young faced an unfortunate end due to this unwelcome frozen visitor. As time went on, A38B, resembling a cosmic popsicle, began to slowly melt and break apart. The dramatic split happened in August 2004, giving birth to a new fragment that gracefully decayed while moving northward. Meanwhile, the rest of A38B continued its symphony of disintegration until September 2004, eventually succumbing to the inevitable by 2005. A cold, silent disappearance from the grand stage of glacial theater. This frozen spectacle wasn't just a show for polar birds and marine life. It left its icy mark on the Antarctic ecosystem and climate. A38B played a role in reshaping the landscape, altering ocean currents and affecting the saltiness of the surrounding waters. It was a natural performance with consequences, nature's delicate balance shifting with every frozen heartbeat. But beyond the scientific observations and ecological impacts, A38B also became a star. It grabbed the attention of scientists and adventurous tourists alike, showcasing the essence of nature's grandeur. A76A. Behold, the colossal relic of frozen history, Iceberg A76A. Imagine it as a massive ironing board adrift in the vast expanse of the Drake Passage, a turbulent sea between South America and Antarctica. Let's embark on a journey through the frozen chronicles of this colossal mass of ice. Clocking in at a staggering 84 miles in length and 16 miles wide, Iceberg A76A is a frozen titan, boasting a surface area that could cover not one, but twice the sprawling streets of London and 4 times the mighty expanse of New York City. Imagine a mammoth iceberg, a floating city of ice, cruising the frigid waters. Our tale begins in May 2021, when the keen eyes of Keith Mackinson, a polar oceanographer with the British Antarctic Survey, first laid sight on this icy leviathan. His poetic description of the iceberg as a giant ironing board adds a touch of whimsy to the otherwise stark landscape of the Antarctic. Picture the surreal sight of an otherworldly ironing board navigating the polar seas. Now fast forward to October 31st, 2022, and witness Iceberg A76A's grand odyssey. Drifting nearly 1,243 miles from its birthplace on Antarctica's Ronne ice shelf, this frozen mammoth now commands attention in the Drake Passage. Behold its glory in a snapshot captured by NASA's Terra satellite equipped with moderate-resolution imaging spectroradiometer MODIS. Despite its epic voyage, Iceberg A76A refuses to shrink. It proudly holds the title of the largest floating iceberg globally as of November 2022. But the suspense lingers as it approaches warmer equatorial waters. Will it stand resilient against the melting forces or succumb to the embrace of the warmer seas? This iceberg, a spectacle of nature's grandeur, may not threaten sea levels, having danced upon the ocean's surface long before its liberation from the ice shelf. Yet its journey holds the potential to reshape the marine ecosystem and ocean circulation, altering the very heartbeat of the frigid waters. B-15AB. Iceberg B-15AB is the lone survivor from what once was the colossal iceberg B-15, which separated from the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica in March of 2000. Imagine it as the last chapter of a frozen saga. This iceberg stretches a whopping 12.4 miles long and 4.3 miles wide, covering an area of about 54.1 square miles. Currently, it's stationed off the coast of Antarctica in the Amory region, steadfast since at least December 2022, according to the U.S. National Ice Center, USNIC. This ice giant is the only remaining piece of B-15 sizable enough to be tracked by the USNIC, with a surface area exceeding 70 square kilometers or 20 square nautical miles. Now, let's rewind a bit. The original B-15 was a behemoth, measuring approximately 183.3 miles long and 23 miles wide, covering an area of about 4,247.4 square miles, double the size of Jamaica. B-15AB was once part of B-15A, the largest fragment of B-15. This massive piece broke into smaller icebergs in October 2005 after grounding off Cape Adare in Victoria Land. Before that, B-15A had a collision of epic proportions. It ran into the Drgalski Ice Tongue, a 43.5-mile extension of the land-based David Glacier, breaking off the tip of the ice tongue in April 2005. Despite its colossal size, B-15AB doesn't pose a threat to sea level rise since it was already floating on the ocean before breaking off from the ice shelf. However, its presence may stir up things in the marine world, influencing the ecosystem and the ocean circulation by tweaking water's saltiness and temperature. So here we are, with Iceberg B-15AB, a colossal remnant frozen in time, narrating the story of Antarctica's icy past. B-15R. Iceberg B-15R, a small piece left behind the big iceberg B-15, has an interesting story in the icy world of Antarctica. It's only about 2.5 miles long and about 1.24 miles wide, covering an area roughly 3.1 square miles, similar to the size of an average university. Now let's dive into this iceberg's tale. B-15R started as part of B-15Z, a piece that broke off from B-15A in October of 2005. It began its journey in Antarctica, floating north, brushing past the South Orkney Islands and the South Georgia Island, and finally reaching the vast South Atlantic Ocean in 2018. Things got intense in June 2019 when B-15Z, the companion of B-15R, met its icy end. A collision with an underwater ridge broke it into smaller icebergs, leaving B-15R on its own. Unfazed, this tough chunk continued north, reaching the cold waters near the Falkland Islands by November of 2020. No need to worry about B-15R adding to rising sea levels. It was already floating before breaking off, riding the waves without causing trouble. But its presence could still affect the ocean world, subtly changing things like salinity and temperature, which might influence the delicate balance of marine life and ocean currents. B-15S. Iceberg B-15S is a captivating piece that broke off from the huge iceberg B-15, making its mark as the biggest iceberg ever in terms of size. In October 2005, B-15S was born near Cape Adare, a result of its parent iceberg B-15A, grounding and breaking up. Imagine this frozen wonder, measuring about 41 kilometers by 24 kilometers or 22 nautical miles by 13 nautical miles, and covering an impressive 891 squared kilometers, or 259 squared nautical miles. Moving northward along the Victoria Land coast, Iceberg B-15 had an adventure that took it to the South Atlantic Ocean by 2018, proudly positioning itself between the Falkland Islands and South Georgia Island as the last significant piece of its massive parent. But the story for Iceberg B-15S goes beyond just a journey on the map. This icy giant, along with its parent, had a big impact on the Antarctic ecosystem and climate, causing changes in nature's delicate balance. Penguins faced obstacles in reaching the sea, phytoplankton growth decreased, ocean currents and salinity changed, and sea ice expanded. For scientists, tourists, and media fans, Iceberg B15S became a fascinating celestial object, monitored closely through satellites, aircraft, and ships. It became the focus of in-depth studies, exploring its physical and biological details. The iceberg even took the spotlight in documentaries, news articles, and captivating YouTube videos. In a time when some daring individuals set foot on this frozen giant, cruise ships and helicopters competed for a close encounter, adding an extraordinary human story to the icy landscape. Yet another offspring of the legendary B-15 iceberg, Iceberg B-15Q, gets its own entry. Imagine this icy giant taking the stage in October 2005, when its predecessor, Iceberg B-15A, succumbed to the forces of nature, breaking into smaller fragments off Cape Adare in Victoria Land. Measuring an impressive 11.8 miles by 5.6 miles, with a sprawling surface area of 104.6 square miles, Iceberg B-15Q embarked on a drifting journey along the rugged coastlines of Victoria Land. As if following the script of an Antarctic odyssey, it eventually set sail for the Edmonton Sea, an epic adventure that captured the fascination of both scientists and thrill-seekers alike. Fast forward to 2018, and there it was, near the formidable Thwaites Glacier, still holding its ground of one of the 4 surviving fragments of the colossal B-15. The National Ice Center kept a watchful eye, tracking its every move, as if nature had woven a tale that demanded attention. Now, let's dive deeper into the intriguing consequences of this icy saga. Iceberg B-15Q and its colossal parent left an indelible mark on the Antarctic landscape, orchestrating a symphony of disruptions. Penguins found their usual routes to the sea blocked. Phytoplankton growth took a hit. Ocean currents and salinity underwent a tango, and sea ice extended its chilly embrace further. This wasn't just a story of ice, it was an ecological opera. As the scientific community delved into the intricacies of this frozen piece, documenting its every move, documentaries, news articles, and YouTube videos shone the spotlight on this icy sensation, captivating the imagination of audiences worldwide. We finally get to the last stage. Somehow, Iceberg B-15 creeps in again. Let's see how this time around. B-15Y. This is a gigantic piece of ice, once as big as 183.3 by 23 miles, almost the size of Jamaica. This iceberg is so huge that it made its own record book for being one of the largest icy lands. The story began in March of 2000, when Iceberg B-15 dramatically broke away from the Ross Ice Shelf, showing off its icy power. Over time, it broke into pieces, and one of them became the famous B-15Y. The name B-15Y became known in October 2005, when its sibling, B-15A, got stuck and broke near Cape Adare. At that time, B-15Y was about 39.8 by 14.9 miles. B-15Y traveled along the Antarctic coastline, sometimes blocking ships on their way to research stations. By 2018, it was in the spotlight between the Falkland Islands and South Georgia Island, moving northward. Fast forward to December 2022, and B-15Y is still there, measuring about 12.4 by 4.3 miles, chilling out the coast in the western part of the Amory region. Iceberg B-15Y isn't just a frozen show, it's a main character in the complex story of the Antarctic ecosystem. This massive piece of ice, along with its big parent B-15, caused trouble by blocking sunlight and nutrients for phytoplankton, affecting the whole food chain from krill to penguins. It even played a part in changing ocean currents and wind patterns, creating cooler and fresher surface waters. B-38A. Away from the B-15 family, we have the B-38A iceberg, born in the breakup of Iceberg C-38 in March 2022. This icy giant, initially 10 by 8 nautical miles, gracefully moves westward along the Antarctic coastline, guided by the ocean currents. Let's dive into the story of Iceberg C-38. its massive parent that separated from the Conger ice shelf in Antarctica in 2019. This icy titan set the stage for the birth of B38A, creating a captivating spectacle that not only grabs our attention, but also sparks scientific curiosity. Picture a frozen landscape, a stage for glacial drama, where climate change takes the spotlight, raising important questions about the stability of the Antarctic ice sheet. Following Iceberg B38A's journey reveals insights into the complex relationship between these wandering ice chunks and the broader marine ecosystem. These enormous icebergs release not only fresh water but also vital nutrients, influencing a rhythm that spreads through the ocean's depths. The effects go beyond the surface, affecting wind and wave patterns, leaving scientists eager to uncover the secrets hidden in the polar regions. Iceberg B38A isn't just a visual marvel, it challenges scientists to deepen their understanding of the polar environment. As we admire its frozen beauty, we shouldn't forget the profound implications for climate dynamics and the delicate balance between ice, sea, and sky. This iceberg's journey isn't just about frozen splendor, it's an invitation to explore the mysteries beneath the surface, igniting curiosity and a renewed appreciation for our planet's polar wonders. B15Z. Iceberg B15Z is the cool and quirky sibling of the massive iceberg B15. B15Z made its grand entrance in May 2018 after separating from its sibling B15A, which had a bit of a tough encounter with the Drygalski ice tongue in 2005. At the start, Iceberg B15Z was a cool 11.18 by 5.59 miles. It began a journey that could match any epic tale, drifting northward along the Antarctic coast and riding the waves of the Antarctic circumpolar current. In 2018, it took the spotlight between the Falkland Islands and South Georgia Island, aiming for the equator and embracing the nomadic life of icebergs. Now let's jump to the exciting December of 2022. Iceberg B15Z had its grand finale. It was no longer part of the B15 family, according to the U.S. National Ice Center. Did it gracefully melt away, or did it break into smaller rebellious icebergs? The mystery is still unsolved. So why was Iceberg B15Z the rock star of frozen waters? Not only did it stick around as one of the longest-lasting icebergs ever, but it also witnessed a roller coaster of changes in the Antarctic environment. Picture being a floating VIP, influencing sunlight, nutrients, ocean currents, wind patterns, and even the stability of the Antarctic ice sheet. That's a front row seat to Earth's natural drama. A38A. Iceberg A38A was one of the two icebergs that calved from Iceberg C38 in March 2022. Iceberg C38 was a large iceberg that split from the Conger ice shelf in Antarctica in 2019. Iceberg A38A was the smaller of the two fragments, measuring 10 by 8 nautical miles at the time of calving. It drifted westward along the coast of Antarctica following the Antarctic circumpolar current. Iceberg A38A was interesting because it was part of a series of large icebergs that have broken off from the Antarctic ice shelves in recent years, raising concerns about the effects of climate change on the stability and the mass balance of the Antarctic ice sheet. Icebergs like A38A also had impacts on the marine ecosystem and ocean circulation, as they released fresh water and nutrients into the sea and altered the wind and wave patterns. And finally, we have A68B. Iceberg A68B was a massive chunk of ice that broke off from the larger A68 iceberg in 2018 or 19. At its peak, it was estimated to be about 8 miles long and 5 miles wide, with a mass of over 1 trillion tons. This is one of the smallest icebergs in this video, but a weight of 1 trillion tons is no joke. This enormous iceberg took a cold journey, gracefully moving north along the Antarctic coastline with the help of its icy Antarctic circumpolar current. By January 2021, it reached the area near the British Overseas Territory of South Georgia, where there was a chance that it could collide with local wildlife and shipping routes. But don't worry, the iceberg managed to avoid any problems, skillfully dodging a grounding on the island's continental shelf, and continued its fascinating eastward drift. Now let's jump to the chilly scene of December 2022. Iceberg A68b mysteriously disappeared from the records of the US National Ice Center. Where did it go? Did it melt or break into smaller pieces? This mystery proves that we are yet to learn a lot about these ice giants. Despite the great advancements in satellite monitoring and software developed to track these icebergs, we still lose track of what's going on with them. Beyond the iceberg's journey through the icy currents, its importance is seen in the impact it had on the environment in Antarctica. Iceberg A68 and its baby A68b messed up the balance, reduced sunlight and nutrients for marine life, causing changes in ocean currents and wind patterns, and even affecting the stability and mass balance of the Antarctic ice sheet.